Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another war.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Reid of MS13DNC, also known as MSNBC, and the F-bomb she dropped live on air during her show while criticizing Joe Biden about potentially starting yet another war over in the Middle East. Now, there's a lot we got to talk about. There's a lot of context. There's a lot of information. But first things first, let's talk about the context of the show. Now, she was on her MSNBC show talking about Ukraine and a potential border bill. And while they were just having B-roll footage up, that particular F-bomb dropped. Now, she has since apologized for this, saying, hey, you know what? We intend to have a PG-13 show. This was behind-the-scenes chatter. It was not meant for the air. Now, the question is, why was she talking about a potential war overseas while the B-roll of Ukraine talk and the border talk was happening? Well, earlier in that same show, they were talking about what happened over in Jordan over the weekend. You see, there was a drone strike allegedly from the Iranians. Iran says they didn't do it. The U.S. says they did do it. But there was a drone strike on a U.S. military installation in Jordan near Syria on Sunday that injured many soldiers. It took the lives of 3 soldiers, and may they rest in peace. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get straight to that. You see what's happening here. U.S. identifies 3 soldiers who lost their lives in attacking Jordan. And that is kind of what the base or whatever they were at may look like. But let's get into it here. So you have, they're all from Georgia, by the way. You have Sergeant William Rivers, 46, of Carrollton, Georgia. Specialist Kennedy Sanders, 24, of Waycross, Georgia. And Specialist Brianna Moffitt, 23, of Savannah. And they were all out of the 718th Engineering Company, a U.S. Army Reserve unit based in Fort Moore, Georgia, which is next to or right in the Columbus, Georgia area near Phoenix, Alabama. Now, that's all 3 of them. May they rest in peace, and prayers out to their family. So after this happened, there's been a bunch of chatter about, okay, we're going to retaliate. We're going to, we're not going to just let this slide. There could be a series of escalations. A lot of news reports talking about we might go strike. I'm seeing Kirby from the Pentagon talking about, well, we're not going to fight Iran directly, but there's a bunch of rumors of wars going on as a result of this attack and other things that have been happening. Now, before I go any further into it, let's get into a video about what's happening. And of course, I will link to everything in the box. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
This morning, the Biden administration vowing to take all necessary action after an unmanned drone strike sent, it said, by Iran-backed militant groups.
So all necessary action, what does that mean? Does it mean that you're really going to retaliate with arms? What does that mean? Are you going to go to Iran and strike them? Are you going to strike quote unquote, rebel groups outside of Iran? What are you going to do? What does all necessary action actually mean?
3 U.S. soldiers were killed, the first American military fatalities from hostile fire since war broke out between Israel and Hamas on October 7th. Another major escalation in a region already in turmoil. And U.S. Central Command said more than 30 were wounded in the attack in northeast Jordan at a remote base on the border with Syria and Iraq called Tower 22. 8 personnel, CENTCOM said, were evacuated to higher level care. President Biden yesterday leading a moment of silence and promising an American response.
We had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases, and we shall respond.
We shall respond. So when you hear stuff like that, what does that mean? Now, Reid, going back to her right quick and her hot mic moment, I don't think she would really go on air and say what she really feels, aside from the quote unquote hot mic. She's not going to get on air and really criticize him over what's happening here. over a potential for war, because you would have heard a lot more about Ukraine. We don't want to go over there. We don't want to go over here. I don't think she'd really do that. Although she can see what we all can see, which is the potential for war. And that's not a thing that we really want.
The base that can be seen by satellite is tasked with fighting the remnants of ISIS and limiting Iran's reach in Syria. 2 US officials told NBC News a drone packed with explosives had struck American troops as they slept. It's the latest and deadliest attack on US forces, facing conflicts with Iran-backed groups on multiple fronts. One called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, saying it targeted 3 US bases in the region on Sunday, partly in revenge, it says, for Israel's military campaign in Gaza. With America already locked in an escalating confrontation with the Houthis in Yemen over the group's continued attacks on global shipping, the Houthis praising the fatal strike on US troops. Now Republicans demanding a more forceful response from the US.
Now, before we get into warmongering Lindsey Graham, so did I hear that correctly? Iraq claim responsibility, and then you have the Houthis, which are allegedly backed by the Iranians. Man, you got a big mess over there. You really do.
Senator Lindsey Graham writing, I am calling on the Biden administration to strike targets of significance inside Iran. Hit Iran now, hit them hard.
No.
In a region already rocked by events in Israel and Gaza, the US has paused funding to a major UN agency after Israel said some of its staff participated in Hamas terror attacks on Israel on October 7th. The UN saying it has fired 9 staffers as the investigation continues. And Savannah, the Pentagon says that US forces in Iraq and Syria have been attacked 160 times by Iran-backed groups since October. The Biden administration has been trying to negotiate a ceasefire in Gaza and warning Iran not to escalate. But today in this region, US allies from Bahrain to Egypt are warning of further instability while condemning what they're calling a terrorist attack. Savannah.
So there we have it. That's what's going on over in the Middle East. And this is the reason why there was a hot mic moment. And again, rest in peace to those who lost their lives over in that particular part of the world. I believe it was in Jordan, right on the Syria border, not too far from Iraq. Now, as I close, I want to say this. All these wars and rumors of wars, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of being over there trying to, quote unquote, help Israel. I'm not a fan of trying to help Ukraine. I'm not a fan of trying to help any of these nations, because really, how does that really help us? Why must we be the world police? This is part of the reason why many of us voted for Donald Trump, because under Trump, this kind of thing wasn't happening. Now, if Joy Reid and MS-13 DNC and all the other alphabet letter organization news outlets, if they were to be honest, they would have to say that under Trump, this kind of thing wasn't going on. Under Trump, there wasn't this, oh, is he going to start another war? That wasn't the reality in which we live. But now, under the new administration, under the so-called grown-ups, we have wars all the time. They're talking about going to Taiwan, going to Iran, going here, going there. It's like, can we not just start wars all over the place? Can we just reduce the violence and bloodshed worldwide? And rather than going over there and having our brave men and women die for us over there, how about we bring them home and protect our own border? Because that's wide open, and we're getting all kind of guys, the same guys that are over there attacking us in the Middle East and all over the world, in which we have an aggressive presence. Those same people are over here coming to the country illegally through the southern border. And once they're in here and get into the interior of the country, who knows what they're going to do? Whatever they want, apparently. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what Joy Reid said, the hot mic moment? What's your take on the potential for war overseas, over in the Middle East and Ukraine and Taiwan? What's your take on all of what's happening here as it relates to potential conflict and ongoing conflict? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I am not a fan of all these foreign wars. And I think that if most people, whether it be left or right or whatever, if they're honest, they're not fans of war either. But unfortunately, sometimes political affiliations get in the way. Sometimes your financial obligations get in the way. If you're Joy Reid and you're the host of the MS-13 DNC show, you got to do whatever the Democratic Party tells you for the most part. At least that's the way I see it. And if I'm wrong, then I can't tell. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.